Today we're going to talk about macarons, and they're a lot of fun to make. It's fun to get into the kitchen and play around with these, and they are delicious when you're finished, even if you mess up, which I've done a couple times now on these, but that's all right. Okay, let's get into the recipe. This recipe is from an old college friend, Gretchen Moss Spidel, so thank you, Gretchen, for this. And for this recipe, we're going to make an Italian meringue. And one of the reasons why I like to do it this way is that your batter is a little more forgiving when you're trying to put everything together, right? So you don't have to make a meringue. You can just use the almond flour and confectioner's sugar, but this meringue helps things to stand up a little bit. Okay, so here we go. Let's get into making it. All right, we're going to start by whipping some egg whites, and I've started here a little bit into the process, but what we're doing is we're unfolding proteins, and those proteins are aggregating around the bubbles that form. And those highlighted forms that I'm showing there, those are hydrophobic residues, and so that's why we keep oil away from these. All right, and there are a couple proteins that get into doing this, and we're going to add sugar to make our meringue. I'm adding hot sugar to this, hot syrup to this, to help with the meringue. And the sucrose, the sugar, is going to help the stability of our meringues in the long run. All right, so I've mixed everything up. I've gotten it to the consistency where I want it. Let's check on that consistency now. Oh, there it is. And now I'm just going to add some food color. All right, I'm going to add some red food color here because we're making raspberry meringues here. Raspberry meringues with some lemon curd for the frosting. All right, so now I'm going to fold in. I'm going to macaronage my batter together, right? So I've got almond flour and confectioner sugar, and I'm going to fold in all of the egg whites that I just whipped up. Okay, so as I'm doing this, we are pushing the spatula around the bowl and then pressing that into the front of the bowl. We want to pop some of those bubbles that we just made and get our batter to set up. Okay, and this takes a while, right? So maybe 35 turns to 40 turns, whatever it takes for you. What you want to see at the end of this process is the batter slowly runs off of your spatula in ribbons, right? And you want to see it holding your ribbons. When I was making this today, and my daughter Caitlin is helping me, she's doing most of the hard work here. So when we were making this today, we probably didn't mix it quite enough, and you can see that later on in the bake and how things look. So we probably didn't mix it quite enough. But what you want to see, right? You can see Caitlin there testing some of that batter. You want to see it coming off in ribbons, and it comes off a little bit in ribbons, but we probably should have stirred it about 3 or 4 more times to get the consistency that we want. There, it's coming off there. All right, so the batter was still a little bit too stiff. All right, so we should have kept going. All right, here's a little more. All right, should have had some more ribbons coming off. It fell apart too quickly. All right, so if you're making them at home, that's what you want to go for. All right, so once your batter is made, we are going to pipe it, and here's Caitlin piping our batter onto our Silpat mat. And so just getting it to the shape that we want. And then after we pipe them, one of the things that we do is we let them sit for about a half an hour, just so the top gets to be a little more solid. So it's not wet anymore, so it is solid to the touch. And that's going to help form the shell when we finally bake it. And we're going to bake these at 300 degrees for about 20 minutes. And so here is the baked product. We got the nice little feet on the bottom, some good lift, but we probably had the oven too high and our mix didn't go on so long. All right, so now let's make some icing. Here's the recipe for our icing. What we are doing here is we are creaming our butter and sugar together. Right, butter is an emulsion of water in oil, and as we are whipping the sugar and the butter together, all right, we are incorporating air into all of this and really changing the texture of everything. The sugar is going to go into the little water droplets that are in our butter, and it's all going to just expand. So we add a little bit of milk to help with that, and so here I've also added some lemon curd to get the consistency right and to add a little more flavor. had some lemon curd left over from something else we've made recently. But we're going to really go after a consistency. We're going to get to the consistency that you want. All right, so after you've made your icing this way, right, you can add a little more liquid or a little more powdered sugar to get where you want it to be. And so here I'm adding some lemon zest on top of that. And so once you're done, once you've made your cookies and once you have made your icing, all right, now it's just a matter of putting it all together. So Caitlin did a great job of putting all of our icing together, putting icing all of our macarons and finishing them all off. So here we've got some macarons. We're going to put some dehydrated raspberry powder on top. So we've got some lemon curd, buttercream frosting, and dehydrated raspberry for flavoring. We're going to shake a little bit of that raspberry on top of our macarons now to finish off this whole process. And these are really good. I've had 2 of them already today. So they really turned out really nicely, even though we probably did our batter a little bit wrong and baked them a little bit not quite perfectly. They're still wonderfully delicious. So that's it for our macarons. Lots of good protein science in there, lots of good textural science in there. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email, reach out by Twitter, and I hope you all are safe and healthy and comfortable.